The Big Lockdown is a card game that's currently funding on Kickstarter. It's for 2 to 4 players and it's a lot of fun. In the game, the deck you draw from determines the risks that you're taking. So if you want to build your stockpile of supplies, great, you can, but you're going to do it at an increased risk of infection, which will cause you to be eliminated from the game. Of course, if you want to be safe from infection, that's also okay, but you're going to find it much more difficult to build the supplies you need to win. One of the ways that we've balanced the different decks in the game is by splitting up the cards that allow you to interact with other players. Indoors, you'll find cards that allow you to defend yourself, for the most part, and outdoors, you'll find mostly cards that allow you to mess with other players and mostly loot from their stockpiles. So we thought we'd in this video take a look at a few offensive strategies that you can use while you play the game. So drawing from the outdoors deck, you might come across a trading station card. Now this card allows you to select any of your supplies from your stockpile and trade it with any of your opponents. There are two ways in which you could use this. You could use it to trade a supply you have plenty of for something that you need, or you could use it to trade one of your supplies for a similar supply of a higher value from one of your opponents. And because you get the choice of which of your opponent's supplies you're taking, you can really use it to increase the value of your stockpile. Also outdoors are all sorts of different combinations of loot cards. These allow you to loot toilet paper, loot food, loot infection prevention, or pick any supply and loot it from any one of your opponents. As with Trading Station, there are two different ways that you can use loot cards. One, you can obviously use them to steal from your opponents to increase your own supplies, but you can also use them to put your opponent at risk. If you wait till your opponent is outdoors and then take their infection prevention, they are now at risk when they draw from the outdoors deck and might suddenly find themselves eliminated from the game because they don't have the protection they need from the dreaded infection card. Another offensive strategy is split between both the outdoors and the indoors deck, and it is the location switch card. This allows you to choose one of your opponents and switch their location status card, meaning they're forced to draw from a deck they didn't want to. This means if they didn't want to draw from the outdoors deck, you can force them to do so. Whereas if they're outdoors and trying to build their stockpile, you can use this card to send them indoors where they're going to find it more difficult to get the supplies they need. One of my favourite cards in the game is the Selfisolation card. Playing this card at any point during your turn means that you are safe from any effect cards played against you. Now, although primarily this seems defensive, because it stops other people looting your supplies or forcing a trade, it actually has an offensive capability. If you play this at the beginning of your turn, then if you try to loot someone else's supplies, they can't defend themselves because you are safe from any effect card played against you, and this includes defensive cards. So if you use this in conjunction with some of the other offensive effect cards, you can create an unbeatable opportunity to really put your opponents in a difficult situation. The last effect card I'm going to talk about today is the Nosy Neighbour card. This allows you to select any of your opponents, providing their location status is outdoors, and force them to lose all of their toilet paper or all of their food from their stockpile. They've got to discard it. And this is obviously really quite powerful because you can take someone that's built up a huge stockpile and demolish it in one card. However, with great power comes great responsibility. Using this at the wrong time could backfire massively. And instead of your opponent losing from their stockpile, you could find your stockpile completely obliterated. So, choose your time carefully. It's all about balancing risk.